Well, guys, I'm back, and I'd like to have a discussion with you right now. I've been meaning to have this discussion for a long time, especially after I saw Avengers Age of Ultron, and I want to talk about something that kind of irks me a little bit. What I'm talking about specifically is the villains in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, for those of you who don't know, I'm a huge fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I feel that the studios have done extremely well in adaptations of the characters. I feel their stories are great, I feel the actors who play them are great, and I feel like the whole idea of a connected, shared universe where everything is interconnected and intertwined, that's just awesome. But the one thing I have a serious issue with is the fact that the villains just aren't that great. In fact, they're very lackluster as a whole. Now, of course, there's a couple exceptions to the rule. My two favorite villains are, so far, Loki and Ultron. And I'm going to put a little asterisk around for Thanos, too. I mean, we haven't really seen him in his complete form, though in his 3 appearances, we've seen only, maybe 2 minutes of screen time. But I feel like Josh Brolin is doing an excellent job with the character. That being said, let's talk about the two I like. What I like about Loki and Ultron is they both have personalities. They're both very endearing characters, and they feel like they actually connect with the audience and the plot as a whole. For Loki, he just has a very sad backstory. He's kind of a sympathetic villain almost. And you can't help but feel bad for him a little bit. You can't help but want to root for him just a little tiny bit. Not so much that he completely wins, but just enough. And it helps that he's had 3 movie appearances so far, being in the first Thor, the Avengers, and Thor: The Dark World. Even bigger help is the fact that Tom Hiddleston absolutely kills this role. I mean, I can't really think of a more endearing performance. That is until I think of Ultron, James Spader's character from the last movie. The last Avengers movie, anyway. Now, as I said before, James Spader plays Ultron in the best way possible. He channels his inner Raymond Reddington. Yeah, I know. I've said that before, but I just can't help it. Because every time Ultron spoke when he was on screen, that's what I saw. I just saw Raymond Reddington in robot form, cracking jokes and being evil at the same time. He's a completely menacing villain while having some humanity in him, just a little bit. And that's why I like the character. That's why I felt like he was a good addition. And so that's why Loki and Ultron altogether are my 2 favorite villains. Again, Thanos being an asterisk. But there's where the problem in lies. Those are the only 2 ones people will accidentally remember. The other villains in the Marvel Cinematic Universe are okay, I guess. Maybe. Kinda, sorta. Iron Man 1, you have Jeff Bridges as Obadiah Stane / Ironmonger. The Incredible Hulk, Tim Roth as Abomination. Iron Man 2, Mickey Rourke is Whiplash. Thor, Loki, and the Destroyer. Captain America, the First Avenger, Red Skull. The Avengers, Loki again. Iron Man 3, Aldrich Killian, aka the Mandarin, and Ben Kingsley as Fake Mandarin. Thor: The Dark World, Malekith the Accursed, and Adewale I can't pronounce his name, but he played Curse. And we'll get to those 2 later. Captain America, the Winter Soldier. And Robert Redford's character, Guardians of the Galaxy, Lee Pace as Ronan the Accuser, and now Avengers Age of Ultron. Oh, and Baron von Strucker's in there too. Now, out of all of those, that's, 10, 12 different villains? And I can only name 2 of them that I thoroughly remember and enjoyed, who had very memorable appearances to me. The rest, either completely immemorable or just okay. And the main problem with them is the fact that they all die at the end of the movie. Well, not all of them, but they are one and done in their appearances. I don't really like that. Pretty much every other villain has been one and done. I mean, that's not to say that actors don't have great appearances or fill the roles out well. I'm just saying that once the movie ends, that character is dead. And it's a shame because in the comics, these characters are very recurring and very strange, powerful characters. The Mandarin in Iron Man 3, that's Iron Man's greatest enemy, his arch enemy, in fact, who has 10 rings on his hand. We saw none of that. We did see the Extremis storyline, though, but that's not the Mandarin people were looking for. And most people pretty much hated what happened with the plot twist. Malekith the Accursed and Cursed. Those were my worst of all. Those are the ones that left me with the least favorable performance. Like, no one is going to remember them. It's been a while since I've seen Thor: The Dark World, I'll admit, but when I was sitting in the theater, the first thing I was thinking to myself is, okay, Christopher Eccleston is going to play this role out. I just want to see how good he does. By the end of the film, I honestly didn't really care for the villain at all. He just seemed generic and very paper thin. Same with Kurse, and he looks scary as hell. And he should be. Really good villains should not be paper thin and one and done. Even when I'm watching the Avengers again and again and again, I keep telling myself, I just overall like the guy. Whereas pretty much everyone else, okay. No, I probably should have said this earlier, but the Winter Soldier, well, if you saw the movie, you know what happens with him. He was a pretty cool villain, pretty kick-ass assassin. Now, you could definitely argue that Hydra from Captain America, the first Avenger, that's a really recurring villain too, but I'm really talking more along the lines of singular characters rather than whole organizations. I'm just really hoping that in the future with these next upcoming movies in Phase 3 and Ant-Man, I just really hope they really flesh out the villains a little bit more and maybe give them more screen time, more backstory. And maybe they'll be around for at least 2 films so that maybe I can connect with them a little bit more and see them develop into that overall supreme evil bad guy like Thanos is probably going to be. This is nothing to say of other comic book movie villains who have probably suffered the same thing. Let's go back to Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy. Spider-Man 1, main enemy, Norman Osborn aka Green Goblin, dead. Spider-Man 2, Alfred Molina as Otto Octavius aka Dr. Octopus, dead. Spider-Man 3, you know, the one that everybody kind of wants to forget. Topher Grace is Eddie Brock / Venom, dead. Harry Osborn as the New Goblin, dead. Though technically a redeemed villain. Sandman flies away. Out of that entire trilogy, there were 5 villains. 1 of them lived. And that's the kind of interesting thing I liked about the Amazing Spider-Man films, both of them. Granted, the last Amazing Spider-Man film was okay, fun, but nothing spectacular. One thing I liked about that is that of the 2 films, of all the villains, only one of them truly died. The Amazing Spider-Man 1, Lizard, locked up in jail. Amazing Spider-Man 2, again, 3 villains, very problematic. You had Rhino, who's still alive, with a cliffhanger that's never going to be resolved. You have Green Goblin, aka New Harry Osborn, jail, and Electro, presumed dead. And then you have the abandoned Sinister Six plot that may or may not get resolved in a later movie. So they had a little bit of upswing on that in my direction. Overall, I will say the whole cinematic universe in Marvel, they definitely need to work on the villain department. With the exception of Loki, Ultron, and once again, Thanos, everything else just kind of falls flat to me. So I'm going to ask, what's your favorite Marvel Cinematic Universe villain so far? And also I'm asking, what's your favorite Marvel villain overall together? Not just limited to the movies, but comics and video games in general. Whoever it is, whatever you think, leave me a comment below and tell me how you feel. Also, don't forget to check out my Twitter at AsteroidMike. Don't forget to check out my blog. And as always, I will see you around.